I should say that now that I'm recording. The webinars will be recorded. So thank you everyone for joining us today. First, before we get started, a quick announcement. We have a 1.8 release of Clowder that went out. As a minor release, this has not just bug fixes, but a bunch of new features and improvements. So as always, all these messages about releases go out on the Slack, the Clowder Slack, as well as the mailing list. So please take a look and share with your collaborators, anyone who uses Clowder or might be interested in using Clowder. There's some pretty neat and exciting features in this 1.8 release. One of them is the ability of providing runtime parameters when manually submitting extractors. There's improvements to the search web interface and the API endpoints, brand new folder-like view of all the resources within Clowder. There is improvements to paginations, extraction pages, support for MongoDB 3.6, some optimizations of MongoDB queries, also some Docker improvements, and obviously some bug fixes. So please take a look. This went out today, so we're pretty excited about it. Okay, so today we'll have two presentations. One is by Colter Wehmeier. We'll present Wicker, a mobile app capable of displaying virtual objects in real-world space using augmented reality. And then Todd Nicholson will discuss a new mobile app that is currently in development to upload images and browse existing content directly from your phone to Clowder. So are there any questions? If not, we get started, and we'll start with Colter. Thank you.
All right. Am I coming in okay? And can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, still good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So to introduce myself, I'm Colter Wehmeier. That's me near the bottom left. I work with the Advanced Visualization Lab at the NCSA, so we do a lot of visualization projects. Their bread and butter is more pre-rendered visualizations for things like IMAX movies, and Kaitan and I, along with our project coordinators, have branched into real-time visualization I guess in collaboration with the Cyprus Institute. So they're a digital cultural heritage specialist group in Cyprus. And over the past summer into the fall, we've been developing Wicker, which is essentially an AR interface for Clowder. And so at a very high level, what we want to do is build a Unity app that can bake and export to VR headsets, AR, mobile viewing platforms. I guess you have all these inbuilt AR functions in Apple devices as well as Android. And in the future, build out web interfaces so that you can see and browse new kinds of media, new kinds of content that are stored on Clowder. And we're doing that. We're building our app in Unity, which can easily extend and incorporate different plugins or, I guess, interface options when it comes to like VR and AR. And what we've built is a way to just load assets from Clowder into the Unity environment over the web. So our most recent showing of the app, we collaborated with a data visualization artist named Stephen Cartwright. He's a faculty member in the sculpture department at the University of Illinois. He builds these massive resin sculptures that visualize where people in his family or people, I guess, political people, people that he knows, where they live throughout their lives. So I'll just show you. We brought in 2 augmented reality sculptures to complement the 2 physical ones he brought to the show. So on the right here, you can see this is a view through the interface. This is running on an Android phone. You basically line up a QR code that points to a Clowder URL, and it will download any set of objects that are in that data set, whether they're photos, audio files, video files, or 3D models. So here we have the top sculpture is a 3D model, as well as the base is a separate 3D model, and they load and are placed exactly on top of that QR code on the podium. QR codes are for 2019. In the future, we expect to have spatial landmarking services offered by Android and Apple, such that the their own servers will identify the environment and be able to localize objects without needing a in-place marker. Here's a second app or a separate demo that we developed. This is a bit earlier. We downloaded or we acquired 30 photos of one of our lab spaces at the NCSA, and we're able to localize those photos with where they were taken. And we get readouts from Clowder about when the photos were taken. Those are the labels that say like spring 2010, spring 2019. And the user accesses the photos by basically moving their phone or mobile device into the position the original photo was taken at. And if you look to the left, we have an example of a photo within our set. And to the right of that photo, that's what the metadata structure looks like. So Unity can read in that data. We actually post and read that data directly from Unity into Clowder as metadata. And this data can be used to position or add behaviors to any asset that we load in from Clowder. So here are two previous projects. I want to show a little bit what we've been doing up to Wicker. We've been getting content from the Cypress Institute. They've been doing extensive scanning of cultural heritage projects. This one is the Paphos Gate in Nicosia, Cyprus, excavated from 2013 to 2015, and we got these photogrammetric scans from them. And we built interfaces in both the first generation of the Oculus Rift using the Leap Motion gesture tracking system, as well as the HTC Vive, a more current VR solution, to visualize these environments. So the Cypress will of media to capture the environment from LiDAR laser scanning, which generates point clouds. They produce spherical panoramas. They can do drone sweeps, as well. They do RTI image scanning, so that can get high fidelity, high resolution surface feature scans. And they use this huge data set to generate reconstructions of previous iterations of sites. So up above, we have the Paphos Gate, which was excavated in 2015. They rebuilt it as it stood in 2017. They built a 1960s version, and as the political situation within Nicosia changed, so did the urban fabric. So they built these big spatial data sets to represent that. As well, their current project is looking at a Neolithic site, Hirokatia, building out this city that doesn't quite exist anymore. It only exists in traces, and running crowd simulation models through this reconstruction to understand how people could have moved and occupied spaces within it. And so these are new kinds of spatial data sets that are generated within the field of archaeology. And we don't have very good ways to, I don't want to say publicize, but make these data sets visualized, accessible to the public. So we view Clowder as an opportunity. Clowder offers an opportunity to ingest any kind of this media, and then we can impose a database ontology to basically structure an archaeology project, both in terms of capturing the data and reconstructing or speculating on the state of a site. And here again is our high level. We view that Unity could be a good environment to access this uploaded data and aid in scene creation. We're hoping to build out spatialized data sets, so you could place point clouds, photos, 3D models, and simulation data within a single spatialized environment, and that can be, offered in VR where you have high-level precision controls, and viewed in AR on site. And so this is kind of hopefully pushing a new way of building knowledge around archaeology with digital tools. So moving from a hierarchical model, the traditional model, towards a more nonlinear model using hypertext and tagging, as well as building functions to analyze, semantic data within large databases on Clowder. So there are new opportunities to generate knowledge around the project of archaeology. And in the future, our next steps forward are building out markerless AR functions. So you could give GPS coordinates to a data set, and with the mobile app, you can basically access it by walking around the city. And the project here is to generate content, whether that's audio recordings like podcasts, old photographs of the city, and placing them in places where they're most relevant to tourists, researchers, or the future. So we want to embed this the products of archaeology and ethnography back into the environments in which they're relevant. So that's our goal moving forward. All right, and that's basically an overview of what we've been doing with Wicker and why. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Colter. Yeah, I'll start by asking, are there any requirements? What are the file formats required for Wicker when I upload to Clowder? And what kind of metadata do I need to add to the files to be able to do what you just showed?
All right, so basically built a function in Unity such that it can load almost any kind of photo file, so any kind of 2D image. Most 3D files are supported. We have limits as to the polygon count currently because we're not loading it. We're loading it in a less stable way. So I think we have 10K polygons for every individual mesh is our limit. But we currently use .fbx files, so any standard modeling program can export 3D models that you can view on Clowder. As well, we support MP4 video currently. I believe we just have to specify the containers to load them in at runtime. So they're not really hard restrictions on the kind of media yet. Of course, we're picking out pilot projects and seeing what kind of media they produce and how we can support them. Point clouds are forthcoming, but Unity does have support to visualize pretty dense point clouds. People are working on that function right now. In terms of metadata, we're currently just taking in more raw, or just if you produce a 3D scene, you can place it on Clowder. And we are not currently building out tools so that you can add the metadata through Clowder. We're kind of trying to build those functions within Unity and basically post, update, and download Unity-specific metadata from within Unity. So that would mean loading in an object that has not been placed within a virtual scene in Unity, placing it, and then sending that information back to Clowder. And that comes in as if it's been extracted. But possibly in the future, that could mean placing the data, and if you want the marker list tracking, you could add a GPS coordinate for a data set, and then that would be searched and downloaded based on whatever the phone's GPS pings Clowder with.
Cool, thank you. Let me see if I can get the camera working before we get other questions. All right, the camera is working, and you can still hear me, okay? Any other questions?
So I have a new project I want to start. How do I get started with this? What is needed for me to start with this?
Well, for right now, I think it'd be good to contact us. We can definitely give you access to the kind of server where we're hosting a lot of our content. It's kind of like a temporary server that Luigi built up for us in collaboration with Cypress. The mobile phone app for viewing is on the App Store for both Android and Apple, and we could make that downloadable to people. We just currently the QR codes for the content themselves are not online, so you'd need to like get QR codes to see them. So if you were getting started, it would be, well, for right now, you'd be talking to us so we can help you get oriented. But basically, you just drop, you create data sets, you drop content into them, and then you print out a QR code that just the URL in the QR code is just that data set link. The app has an API key, and so that's how it downloads stuff. So you can generate your own API key if you wanted to. And then if you had like a poster session, you're trying to share information, you would bring that QR code with you. And right now we have a separate set of QR codes to point to the asset stores, but we hope to have a special domain where we can redirect QR code. So like we might have like a wicker dot something, wicker.illinois.edu. And if you open that QR code in the app, then you get the object, it links directly to Clowder. And if you don't have the app, if you're viewing it through your camera, it like goes directly to the App Store. That's like one of our next features we'd really like to implement. But in general, it's just finding your, like basically building out media, placing it into data sets, printing out QR codes, and placing them in the environment.
Thanks.
I have another question. So let's say I want to write a different Unity client, or how the code that you have, is it shared? Can I learn how to load things in and write things back to Clowder directly from Unity?
I believe there's a SKU of the project that is currently within the NCSA open source. We're currently using Git, and if you do request a project, we have no problem handing it off with educational partners to continue developing. We do have one proprietary plugin to help parse the 3D models, which there's some restrictions on sharing that widely, super widely. It's a paid for plugin, but if you're a Clowder user, we can definitely think about sharing it. Another thing to be aware of with Wicker is we also support downloading Unity asset bundles. So you can have more complex behaviors built out in Unity, some interaction stuff. Like you can bake that to essentially a zip file that our app can download from Clowder, right? And it's not, the asset bundle wouldn't be as useful within Clowder. You couldn't see its contents on Clowder, but it could be useful for the app if you wanted to have more complex functions on Wicker.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Colter.